Okay, enough fucking around, I guess. Time to fuck around. Uh-oh. We don't need Mike. Uh-oh. Yeah, she's dressed like a queen. Could it be the knight? That has antlers? Holy shit. No, it's Des. It's gotta be Des. She's here! Oh my god! This is why Chris left the door open. Or no, why they left the door open and why they slashed the tires. The people in the comments on my video were correct. Oh my god. Yeah. Well, there goes my theory that Rules is actually the knight. Or at least it's something that can work in the light. Yeah, it's possible. She's so good at playing the good kid. Undyne and the mayor. Could the mayor be the knight? I don't think so. Goes to church, who knows the mayor? Des? He's not going to show up. I guarantee. Like, the very last thing that we will see at the very end of the game will be like 2 pixels of a skull and the first note of Bone Trussell, and then it'll hit the end. Your detective instincts gave you another suspect for the Black Knight. Yeah, I was saying there's like a non-zero chance it could be the mayor, but probably not that likely. You know what? The mayor's got a sword, and the knight has antlers. That is a distinct red herring. So yeah, I think we're supposed to think it's her. Yeah, her sister's room has probably been sacred for a while. Oh god. So I think this means Chris is in league with the knight? But why? Yes! 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 Say yes, Susie, goddammit. Oh, fuck. God damn it, Asgore. You're the worst. I think I officially hate him. He's like Greg Universe if Greg Universe sucked ass. I just saw her outside the window? Fucking what? She's not the knight, though. She's still not the knight. Or is she? I don't know. She's broken. And she's very protective of her older daughter's things. Maybe she is the knight. Okay, he has some redeeming qualities. Yeah, she's very much got controlling gay person's disapproving mother energy. No, I'm sorry, he's just useless, and also he busted a scene between Susie and Noelle. He's just like the most pathetic person I've ever seen. And he's not even a bad guy, which is the worst part. There's something to be said for like a sniveling toady character, but Asgore is just, god, he's pathetic. Yes, he has a massive downgrade. Undertale Asgore did have that like pathetic divorced guy energy, but also he was a big sweetheart. And also he was a fucking badass. More chances for Susie to be vulnerable and introspective and open up. It's gonna be really sad when she like gets killed by the knight. Man, it's shit like this that keeps me suspicious of him. Bye, Rossi. I still don't know what to think about you. Guys! Church world, church world. Rossi? There he is. No, Susie, don't feel bad. This is not the time for it. You did a good job. Anyway, let's go. Why is he running ahead? There's so much weird tension with him. Oh, yeah, that's the prophecy. Prophecy says Gelfling will kill us all. Anyway, I'm glad that I was right, that there is in fact a dark world before we go to the shelter. With Undyne being there, I feel like it's not going to quite be that late in the game. You know, this is great because not only is she opening up a lot, being vulnerable, but also she's showing that she's not just the dumb kid. She's got insights, she's got things that she's good at. You know what this proves? It proves that there's nothing special about Chris having opened the Dark World at the end of Chapter 2. Anyone can do it. The Cage, the Girl, and the Dark Prince. One of these things is not like the others. Could you say it's like Susie's ordinariness that makes her special? Call him on his shit, Susie. Ooh! That sprite admittedly makes me feel a little bad for him. Aww. Fuck. This explains, maybe, why he's been so cagey this whole time. No, you dipshit. I just want to talk to these characters directly. Yes. You fucking tell his ass. I was watching some Deltarune theory videos recently, and someone pointed out that Ralsei might actually be who's singing the theme, because he does a lot of singing in the game. He was the singer in the rock band part. Oh shit. Oh damn. What does this even mean? Oh no. Oh no. That's not good. Oh fuck. What is that thing? It's a Titan! Oh no! It's time for Attack on Titan. The mechanics of this chapter have been honestly really fascinating, just because it's all been leading up to this. The darkness mechanic, the light mechanic, and the climbing. Why pretend we're all the same when some of us shine brighter? She went running off like an idiot. I see that's the fashion of the day. Let's see, what all rhymes with way? To save the world, there's only one way. A kiss from the love that's extremely gay. That's what my theory is now. This is Susie in full doesn't care about anything mode. Whatever she saw, it was bad. Oh, killing Ralsei? Yeah, that would work. No, you're bloody, man. French is fucking magic, bro. This is the story of two friends, I think. Oh boy! Oh my god. Ooh. This seems like a comedic beat, but Susie's reaction tells me a lot more. Yeah. She sees that Toriel's drunk, and she suddenly has to leave. It is a powerful experience that I do not recommend people do. If you like that kind of thing, if you want to experience it, absolutely. If you're the kind of person who hears that and thinks that's maybe not for me, trust me, it's not for you. It's really intense. Now, I think the sword route is actually a negative route. Oh yeah, the Flower King, yeah. It does seem like Chapter 5 might be Flower King and Asgore. I've heard some very good theories about all that. And then I've heard some bad theories, like Woody theory. The theory that the secret boss in Chapter 3 was going to be Woody from Toy Story. I think if you were going to go with that theory seriously, like a character inspired by Woody, sure. But some people are like, no, it's going to be Woody from Toy Story, and I honestly don't know how serious they are about it, because some people forget or never get the memo that theorizing is supposed to be for having fun and not being right. But I've watched like half a dozen videos about Woody theory, both the original ones from a couple years ago and new ones that are like, no, it's still alive, it's not dead. It is getting like funnier as people do that, and I think there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek going on. If you watch the original theory videos, it's honestly pretty neat how much makes sense, even as you know it is 100% incorrect. Just the lengths that people go to connect threads and stuff. It's really a sight to behold. It's funny. I thought it was cool. The fun thing about wrong theory videos, though, like every single theory video that I've seen, no matter when it was put out, I learned something from it. Yeah, I was surprised that Neo Woody theory guy didn't know about the mic room. I'm starting to believe that Rolse is Chris's monster horn headband that they used to wear. Granted, this wouldn't explain why he's here or why he does anything that he does. I think the knight is corrupted, and whoever they were, they're not in their right mind. And that's why they're doing all this stuff. Like, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense, probably. Now I can't make fun of him for being sad. It's funny, I saw a post from Toby Fox where he was afraid that people would just think Tenna is like a cut-rate Spamton, and like, I sort of thought that myself, but it has not stopped me from actually enjoying his shenanigans. Like, they're both kind of silly, they both talk funny, they're very similar, they've apparently got some kind of connection, which hopefully I'll be able to find eventually. He's so pathetic, I honestly think he's completely genuine about everything, and he just cannot help being a pathetic wretch. Like, this is not just to get his way, he's really legitimately sad. These guys, I've decided I'm really not into, even though I'm kind of into the drama, and I like the fact that they introduce themselves as your boss encounter. This guy is interesting. I'm not talking to Rules Hard, he can fuck off. When we were playing, and I was like, I'm thinking things. Tenna mentioned something about Toriel not wanting us to watch, like, music videos, and he said maybe she had a thing against alligators and bikinis, and my first thought, for some reason, was, is that what Susie's mom was doing? It's definitely because I was just watching a series of videos about video vixens, ladies who appear in bikinis and stuff in rap music videos. But that was my first thought. But is Susie an alligator? What is she? There are several questions arising from this, and that is the first one. Because she's just sort of like an undifferentiated lizard person. She's got a little tail, which she is sensitive about. It's funny, given the way she looks, the like little Godzilla minigame kind of fits her better than anything else. I know that Susie qualifies as an alligator. And then, like, obviously, the reference is probably to Bratty, but, like, Bratty kind of looks more like a Gavial to me. I mean, admittedly, she is a cartoon anthropomorphized animal person, so it could just be the way she's drawn. In which case, was Bratty doing music videos? I think she's a little young for that. Isn't she in, like, our class or something? You were used up. Ah, delightful. Notice they turned their head to the side, and they were slightly gray, as if to remind us that we are in fact the ones in charge here, and we're making them do this. You realize this is just the plot of The Brave Little Toaster. This is one of those cases where the play control is not amazing. It's very retro, and it makes this a lot harder, and that's kind of the point. I'm not doing this for fun. Keep you three busy. I can have fun. Was that a deal that he made with Chris, or was it a deal he made with the Knight? So I watched this channel on YouTube, Kiss Magic, and their thing is doing data mining, Deltarune and Undertale, and messing with the code and seeing like what would happen if we took out these barriers or if we had this mechanic in this battle. And I asked them what would happen if you actually defeated Lenino or Elnina in that first fight, and somebody actually in the comments told me all that happens is the game crashes, which is frequently a result of these what-ifs. But now I'm wondering what happens if you actually violence him down to 0, because I don't know if I did or not. The moving is probably because, like, I don't know, if her parent, parentheses S, isn't very good with money, they might just keep getting, like, evicted from apartments and forced to move. And then the parent picks up a job and holds it for a while, and so they don't. And the graveyard. Now we know what happens in Chapter 4. The graveyard is where everything happens. Toriel was nice to her here. Susie bonds with the shade of Gerson Boom. I want to find some connection between Toriel and that whole thing about the angel's head and just the angel of the Deltarune galaxy. Because, like, she's on top of a tree. I think he said she was sleeping like an angel at some point. There's something happening there, and what it is ain't exactly clear. I love the theory someone's like, maybe Rudy is the knight, because when it does the screen thing, its chest opens up, and his problem is in his chest. It's like, no dude, seriously. I think that if Chris is working with the knight, which I've seen some very, very good evidence for, the reason why they're even bothering to put an offense here is because they really know what was going to happen to Toriel. Like, that wasn't part of the deal. Or maybe it was. in these two chapters, Susie's becoming more of a hero. But, like, she's also really grappling with just sort of her own sense of self-worth, which makes me like her a lot. Like, at the start of this game, I could take her or leave her in Chapter 1. In Chapter 2, I like her because she's love interest for Noelle, and that's pretty great. But here in Chapter 3 especially, she's really feeling her own, and she's honest. Like, she's quickly becoming my favorite character, I think. And you've got, like, Bralsei grappling with the fact that he's quote-unquote not real. He's just getting so depressed. And like I said before, I used to be really suspicious of him, and I think finally in Chapter 4 we get actually a good explanation for why he's been keeping everything so close to his chest. He just knows too much, and he doesn't really want to burden anyone with that knowledge. Like I said before, until he was afraid, people might think of him as just being like a cut-rate Spamton, or like Spamton 2, and like kind of is. Oh, it's hard to hear me? Oh, you know what? That's because this is way, way up. This does not need to be that high. How's that? Even if he is, like, just kind of a second Spamton, I like him because of it. And I'll be interested to see more of his connection to Spamton. Oh, now you can't hear the boss fight. Ugh. Okay, let's move this to, like, here. One of the fun things about Chapter 2 is Chris's parallels with Spamton. So it's fun to explore them again with Tenna, who's very similar but still different to Spamton. Yeah, like the whole puppetry thing that's going on. And like, maybe the most interesting thing about Tenna is how, like, familiar he is with Chris. It's like, hey, I used to be basically part of your family, but then everybody kind of forgot about me. And it's a little heartbreaking, because you can see that from his side, even though he's obviously sort of misinterpreting the situation. Yeah, Lenino and Elena, they're okay. I like their story more than I like them as characters. If anything, they're a little flat. Just fine, because they're not major characters in any way. And mostly their plot line is sort of driven off the rails thanks to the intervention of Rules Card, who I just cannot stand anymore. I hate the way he talks. I hate the fact that he shows up, like Bralsei, all the frickin' time. Getting lots of info about Des. Of course, that's kind of the main thing I'm interested in knowing more about, I think. Which probably just means that Toby Fox is doing his job and telling a good story. At first I read Tenna as being manipulative with his low self-esteem and griping about a lot of stuff and acting really sad and pitiful whenever he doesn't get his way, but I don't actually think he's manipulative. I think he really is that earnest and that invested in having fun and reliving the old nostalgic days and whatnot. Somebody pointed out the knight moves like an ice skater. I wonder if that's another thing Des was into. I was commenting a lot on the meta-narrative of Control. I don't know if it becomes more apparent in these two chapters or if it's just always been this apparent, but Susie swapping around the controllers, that was a big one. And of course, once you do the sword route and you get video game Chris walking out of the game and then Chris having to walk into the game, I do not even know how to interpret that. The weird fact of Ramb existing and seeming like someone you should know when actually, no, we've never seen him before. That was so interesting. What's the naming conventions of Dark Worlds? What happens when Lightner stays in Dark World for too long? Oh, that second one is interesting because we know what happens if a Darkner stays in the wrong Dark World for too long. They petrify. But, well, I guess the answer is probably whatever's happened to Des. If she is actually in the Dark World and not in another different place, which I think is very possible. It's like you turn into a Roaring Knight or you get split in two or whatever. Someone today was talking about a very interesting and probably completely pointless theory, pointing out that there's a lot of mentions of hands in this game. And I actually think that's just another part of the Control theme, because what do you need to puppet something? You need hands with strings attached. But like seeing this wall of evidence, like just how many things there are, which just, there's a lot of hand stuff going on. Or there's a massive blank and an incel. Admittedly, if you don't Snowgrave him, he kind of gets better. Like, there's no one unworthy of redemption. But also, yeah, he kind of sucks. He kind of sucks a lot. He's not a bad kid, he's just annoying. Exactly. He doesn't get the social graces and stuff. Because you know, the thing about Birdley, when you hear his backstory, assuming he's being completely truthful, which I kind of believe he is, it's pretty heartbreaking, and I can absolutely relate to it. Your smarts being like the only thing that people care about or give you attention or praise for. He's very much got gifted kid burnout, or at least he's headed in that direction. But yeah, also he kind of sucks, and it is fun to kick his ass a little bit. Just because he's so freaking up his own ass about himself. Like that's inexcusable. And that's worth stopping a little bit for. And like I said, how Chapter 4 is like really lore heavy, I think the whole sequence, not just the sequence and the scenes, but just the way Noelle's house is laid out, all the stuff that we learn there is just fantastic storytelling, you know, because you really feel the weight of a family dealing with a missing, presumed dead child. Even if you hate Carol, that's a really rough thing for a parent to have to deal with. And it's written everywhere. Oh yeah, I was freaking out about getting ripped out of Chris and having to play around in the air vents with the soul. That was a wild, wild sequence. I think that really helped to center Chris in the story as their own character, which is not something we get a lot of. There's little snatches of their backstory here and there, but for the most part, they're not a part of the story. I got very upset at Asgore interrupting the lesbianing in the living room. Yeah, the scene of scaring the shit out of Noelle and Susie, that was a lot of fun. But once again, makes you wonder about a few things, about what's actually real, what's going on, what is the soul. Awkwardly interrupting things is Asgore's entire purpose in the plot so far. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's all he does. And frequently it's by being cringy. Like, one of the other questions I have about the soul is, why does Chris put it back in themselves after they've gone to all of that trouble to rip it out and hit it with a hockey stick? You know, why take it back? Chris needs us for something. They have a lot more control over what actions they allow us to take than it first appears. Yeah, like they're constantly struggling against our control. God forbid they rip the soul out of themselves in a dark world. Like, yes, I was very pleased with myself for reading her properly. And I have to ask the question, was she named prior to Chapter 3? Or did we all just intuit her name? I mean, like, obviously we picked up what Toby Fox was laying down. We have a Christmas-themed family. Of course the mom's going to be named Carol. I compared Asgore to Greg Universe. If Greg Universe had no redeeming qualities. I have seen a video somewhere that, yeah, we shouldn't be too hard on Asgore. But he does suck a little bit. He's not handling his situation very well. When you choose your adventure book based on the original Earthbound, the protagonist's mother is named Carol Halliday. Interesting. I wonder if that's what gave him the idea. Interesting mechanical fact about the knight. Chris does less damage to it normally, but their damage goes up for each of their party members who is down. At one point during, I think, Chapter 4, first time through, I said, oh man, I need to write fanfic about this, and I can't remember what it was I wanted to write. I think it was about Susie's inferiority complex, I think, because she starts, like, unfavorably comparing her ability to heal with Ralsei's ability to heal, which, like, oh my god, number one, first of all, girl, don't. I don't really want to talk about Jack, says this note. Yeah, once I got over the, like, shock and surprise of the early parts of that fight, I just found it annoying. Which is sad because it's actually very hard not to like Jackenstein. He's a large, sweet boy. He's almost as soft as Ralsei. Another great part of Chapter 4 was watching Susie get close to Gerson, knowing that he was dead. It was just a matter of time before we get out of this dark world and she's going to have her heart broken. But that is the kind of drama I am here for. Oh god. God, how fucking amazing was it to see the knight open a dark fountain in the dark world? Which, funnily enough, I had completely forgotten Birdley nearly did at the end of Chapter 2. That was when Ralsei was like, no, you cannot fucking do that, the roaring. And we learned a little bit about the roaring. I really love how Chapter 4's mechanics just come together. The Titan fight and like the climbing sequence leading up to it, it's all tutorialized so very well. Oh yeah, also, I guess last thing I'll say out of my notes, final scene of Chapter 4. You come home after defeating a Titan, which feels like an endgame boss, and not a mid-game boss, and you find Sans and Toriel partying. And it's presented as a comedy beat, because she's clearly been drinking, which is actually not funny. She's got issues, and she's giving in to her worst instincts, as it were. And then that's compounded by the fact that as soon as Susie sees her, she goes rigid, which she has always done around Toriel. Well, no, she did that around Toriel at first, and I think that was just because, like, clearly she does not have the best home life. She knows Toriel a bit, but, like, instinct can be difficult to hold back on. But here she goes rigid, she goes quiet, and that's, I think, the really telling part, because she knows what happens when a parent gets drunk. And it's not what's going to happen with Toriel, of course, but she doesn't know that. I thought that was a very powerful little scene there, and the fact that it seems to be funny on the surface is really interesting. Whoa, did you see that? The heart like had a little white mouth on it for a split second, and I couldn't move it. You find it funny how it single-handedly seemed to unite the fandom into going, Sans Deltarune must die. Oh, that's funny. That's actually hilarious. I agree with you. Yeah, Sans is here, and he's kind of his cool old funny self, but he's clearly not a good influence on Toriel. And that's kind of hard to reckon with if you're an Undertale fan. Because in Undertale, it was funny and cool that Sans was into Toriel. They had formed, you know, a connection. They were very different people. But Toriel Deltarune, she's got some issues. She does not need an enabler. Yeah, without Papyrus to bounce off of, in contrast to, he's not as funny as he was in Undertale. You know what that was? The heart, like, resisted that final attack, and she's got 1 hit point. Does anybody know why that happens? And does it only happen in this fight? I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure I've seen it elsewhere. But yeah, every now and then you'll see screen shakes, and the heart gets like a on it. It gets teeth, which is creepy, but it resists a killing blow. That's funny. At the end of this fight, she gets to laugh at it, and at the next chapter, it will be laughing at her. Chris / Theory. Yes, they / them Theory. The best fucking name for a theory ever. For anything. Because they absolutely / them. It's fun seeing how much Susie has started caring about just everybody. You know, she cares about Undyne, barely even knows her. She cares about people stumbling into dark worlds when they really shouldn't. Deltarune, the Pine Tree, and the Officer's Badge. So, when they say 1225 is the key, or the code of the shelter, I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Yeah, I think it's the code for the Pine Tree, but it's like, there's no way to check it. What happens if a monster dies in the dark world? I would imagine the same thing happens if they die in the light world. They fall down and turn to dust. We're on the shit route. Being mean to Elphys is its own reward. She doesn't know, but she knows. I really hope Chapter 5 revolves around him like people are thinking it's going to. The more I think about him, the more I fear either the hopeless romantic thing is just an act, like he's using it to repress things. Actually, I don't know what the other option is. But as we'll hopefully find out today, this man has seen some shit. And I have theories on that. Nobody who appeared in Undertale has had a boss fight yet. It's true. Knowing Asgore will spend the whole thing talking to flowers. Yeah. Ah, yeah, okay. He's got a conspiracy board in the basement, which is kind of an important detail. Gamers never die, they just respawn. There you go. I watched a very good video about Lorelse believes that he just exists to serve Lightners, even though, you know, he's supposed to be our friend. Ah, good, there's nothing in here. Excellent. Yeah, see, it's this kind of stuff. He does not think about his own needs because he's very aware of the fact that he's not real. And it's very depressing. Has anybody seen the comic where Chris tells her mom she's gay? She specifically says homosexual, and Carol's like, ahem. And then she goes, Mom, I'm a ho-ho homosexual. And then Carol's like, that's better. there is something that Chris does not want us specifically to find out. And it seems to have to do with deaths. Why did she specify Chris's voice? He tries. He tries very hard. He's just not good at any of this. I like how, because we went through all of that, we are being denied this scene. We don't get to watch it. We're being told it afterwards. I love how many sprite animations Susie has involving doors. Like the main one is her kicking a door, but we've seen her pounding on a door, throwing it open. What is it with Susie and doors? That's right, because this whole chapter is about Susie's healing. I like that you hear Ralsei. He wasn't here looking for us. He was looking for the panel of the prophecy that he didn't want us to see. He's such an inadvertent dick in this chapter, at least to Susie. I think he's mostly preoccupied with the prophecy and making sure we don't see the end of it, and that's why he's not quite himself. So he even forgot about the pose. And then he rushes off. Knowing what we do about this chapter now, all this behavior makes a lot more sense. Jockington grows the beard? I forgot about that one. Does that mean Jockington's part of the prophecy? It's actually quite cool. It doesn't overwrite the original weird route, but expands it. Is it like going with her and Ralsei to the other side, or is it just a completely different thing? But yeah, being mean to people is edgy and fun. Psychologically torturing. You know, I realized, I don't want to belabor this, but I focus mostly on what happens to Noelle, but we're also torturing Chris with this. We're making them be the catalyst through which their friend is hurt, and that makes it so much worse. Now that we've got a very clear distinction between ourselves and Chris. Chris is their own character, they have their own thoughts. That becomes a lot clearer in chapter 3. And so now it rings a little more strongly. This thing, I want to know what this is. We are not afraid. Oh, it just hurts us. Okay, never mind. It's actually a Titan spawn, I think. I was reading a ton of wiki stuff last night into today, and that old turtle lady in the church that is, in fact, at least meant to be Gerson's widow. Speed it up, old man. Oh my god, Ralsei, why? And he says he doesn't have his own likes. This chapter's significantly more fun when you know what's going on. I had no idea what to make of him. I had no idea what to make of Ralsei's strange behavior. And Susie was just kind of being a dick for no apparent reason because she's in the midst of a character arc. There's always a lot of little bits of dialogue that sound like someone might know what's going on. So, after playing through this the first time and showing some friends the playthrough, they were amazed that I found the secret race up the pillar against the annoying dog, and I didn't get the axe. So we're going to try and do that this time. Parallel paths. Does Ralsei know what a car is? This is an alarming revelation. He doesn't come out to say you're taking too long until after you get the key. And if you wait for 9¼ hours, the battle, or at least the turn will end. Oh, here come the little guys. I love them. They only happen here. Also, I take a little bit of offense at this one. What's humiliating about wearing a dress? I really want to know why he says Mamma Mia. Why is that specifically the thing that he says? Because, that's Top Chef's whole thing, is Mama Miba, for some reason. It's so depressing. In this scene, I get so mad at Susie because it's oh my god, don't compare yourself to Ralsei. He's a freaking Darkner who is born with magic. The fact that you can use any amount of magic is amazing. The first step to being good at anything is to suck at it. And then of course, for some reason after I was done playing chapter for the first time, I had the thought of, oh no, I'll never make anything as meaningful as Deltarune. And then I was like, you idiot, what were you just telling Susie in your head? So you can learn a lot from this game. It does feel good to see her having regained her confidence. Really hard to run. You gotta walk through frickin' ankle-deep water. Yeah, it's another Titan spawn. I can see it. I don't know if it's just me or if that's meant to harken back to Washila's attacks in Undertale. Okay, we're gonna do a little weird thing here. It shouldn't be major. We're gonna say, seems unnecessary. We will think of Noelle. Huh. Whew. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know how to take that. I mean, nothing happened. Yeah, the way she said thank you is a little, like, it's nothing good. That's for certain. I just don't know how to take it. Other than, yeah, it's still a little creepy. I wonder if the fact that they're, like, worshipful of these quote-unquote princesses made of water is meant to be like a backhanded commentary on the whole gamer girl bathwater thing. Like, I don't think so, but it would be kind of funny if it was. Just the weird shit that people get really invested in. Ooh, wow, they don't like me now. Acrid green and ectoplasmic. It's an ecto-cooler reference. So, in case anybody saw the initial live stream notification saying I was going to try playing Chapter 1, didn't work out. I would have to clear one of the files in order to do that, and I'm not doing that. But I'm doing theory videos, which I'm relying on my memory of the early parts of the game, which is a stupid idea on my part, because my memory is not very good, as we all know. I just kind of wanted to, like, get reacquainted with the early parts of the game. Specifically, I wanted to pay more attention to Chris, with the understanding that we sort of have now of how they relate to the soul, because we don't get any of that in Chapter 1, well, not until the very end at least, and I thought that would be interesting. I've been watching a lot of animatics and voice-acted comics today, a lot of good YouTube shorts out there for Deltarune stuff. I saw a fun comic where Susie's like, hey Ralsei, what's up with your hands? And he's like, my hands? She goes, yeah, you're always standing with your hands behind your back. I thought you had a butt itch or something. And he's like, you know, he doesn't know how to respond to that. And Chris has a memory of having drawn Ralsei as their, like, monster Sona as a kid, and always with his hands behind his back, because when you're starting off as an artist, drawing hands is really difficult, and that's how you avoid doing it. And I thought that was really funny. I've only just now really noticed the animation she has for firing off the Root Buster. It's so cool. She's like, and she looks like she's having a really good time. I will still say this fight is very well self-tutorialized. This is a fight that you're supposed to win, unlike the night fight, which is just get wrecked, kid. And those are both fine things. It speaks a lot to the characters you're fighting. I hope that in Chapter 7 we get a secret boss where you just fight as Ralsei. We find out the part of the prophecy he didn't want you to know, and depending on how you've played the game, you either play as Ralsei fighting Chris, or as Chris fighting Ralsei. How about that? Either way, it's fucking heartbreaking. It's really great when you can unpack a mechanic or something like that in this game and see that care and intentionality put into it. It's never just what would the coolest thing be, it's make it all make sense. You know what I'd love to know? I would love to know the sound design behind Gerson's laugh. What is that sound? What made that sound? It's so bizarre. It's got this uncanny old man quality to it, so it fits in perfectly. Fun fact that I just learned today, I was watching Tasting History with Max Miller, and he was talking about the history of spam. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people like me, the first thing you think of when you hear the word spam is the Monty Python sketch where all the Vikings are singing spam, spam, spam. So it turns out that sketch was on the minds of the, I forget where they were at, programmers at some company that were involved in the early internet technology in the 80s. That was on their minds when they decided to call mass amounts of email spam, which means that there is a direct line from Monty Python to Deltarune, because where does Spamton get his name? And I just think that's really funny. Yeah, I've been on severe Deltarune / Undertale brain rot mode all weekend. I have seen some really good theory videos and analysis videos, and I've seen some really crazy ones. Someone had the audacity to make a YouTube video titled, "Here's Why Chris is Still the Knight," and thankfully they started off with, like, warning, this is kind of silly and not true, but also, this is just an exercise in theory crafting, and I was like, you know what, I can respect that. That's the only way a title that clickbaity is reasonable. And they ended up giving really good reason why the knight is actually Chris from an alternate timeline. It's absolutely nuts. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, back on the subject of game / fight at hand, I saw an excellent video about Gerson. and what his role is in, like, the meta-narrative, not just the narrative. And so many things make so much more sense after seeing that. I should have my literary critic's license taken away. He only has one eye open, so he has poor depth perception and has a harder time hitting a moving target. You know what? I super believe that. Long story short, Gerson shows up and he spends all of his time counteracting fate and demonstrating that you can write your own ending to a story. He is a writer. He's literally written stories that theoretically have endings. The first couple things we see him do are shatter prophecy windows. That's not just him being goofy and bumping into the scenery. He's literally breaking the prophecy. So he's here to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the prophecy is not as set in stone as maybe Ralsei thinks. And once I saw that video, everything was suddenly put into perspective. Because hilariously, earlier the day that I saw it, I had commented something that I've been thinking, which is that this whole chapter takes place in and around a church, lots of religious iconography, and it doesn't actually have anything to say about religion. Well, no, that's not true. Gerson is here. It has something to say about religion in a very subtle way, which is that following stories to the letter is not necessary. It's not something you have to do. And if that doesn't pertain to religion, I don't know what does. Also, I don't know if anybody out there goes looking for Deltarune or Undertale's content. There's a lot of really good, like, animatics and just straight-up animations out there. I saw a really good one. It was basically just an AMV for Black Knife, but it was entirely original animation, and it looks like it comes from some sort of unreleased Deltarune anime. I was amazed by it. More the idea, if no real changes made outside the prophecy, even trying to stop it is doing stuff around it, it would be the same. As right now the changes being through Noelle kind of works as, while she may be talked about during the love part, it's probably expected that being used as a catalyst without knowing why, maybe why she's able to change the story and the whole ice magic being creation thing. Ice magic being creation, you're on a whole other level for Mizurami. There is tons of good stuff. Although I think my favorite thing right now still is clips of Steve Harvey's Family Feud with Tenna and the Fun Gang on TV Time. Those have all been hilarious. Tenna is a perfect Steve Harvey stand-in, and they're always the funniest clips of the show. It's that stage of the fight. And unfortunately, until I get that, I'm gonna be really out of luck. The forbidden path begins with ice magic. That sounds right. I mean, I could see ice magic being linked to creation, just like for other general reasons. Just because it's linked to creation doesn't mean it's also linked to destruction. A lot of times those two things are one and the same. It's very possible that, because the Snowgrave route is sending a very clear message at this point, and I could really see it being just like, yeah, you can do different things, you can change the path that you're on, but just making changes for the sake of making changes, just doing things because you can, is not a good idea. I saw a very good video last night about Sans' character, framed very much in the sense of some of y'all forgot he's more than just genocide in Megalovania. And they did some very good analysis videos for both Deltarune and Undertale. I still say Papyrus is never actually going to show up. You're going to get to the end of Chapter 7, you're going to roll the final credits, and you're going to see his Papyrus text balloon show up, hey guys, what's, and the game will just end. Mark my words, I'm calling it here. Blue is expected to be the next secret boss thing? Yeah, only Sans and Papyrus have done Blue Soul. We find out that Papyrus is actually the knight, and the final fight is Blue Soul. Actually, if the final fight doesn't shift you through several different colors, I'd be very shocked. So here's an interesting thing. The 3 save files I have are playing through the first time, not knowing anything, just doing what seems right. I think I'm kind of leaning into taking the funny response in any of the text choices. This one is Snowgrave, weird route stuff, be a dick to everybody. And then the other one is try and get everything that doesn't require weird route and be nice to everybody. But I saw a video, and this raises a very good point. I think in my nice to everybody file, I've been doing a lot of the sort of flirting with Ralsei responses, and that might be being nice to Ralsei, but it's not being nice to Chris. this gets into some icky territory, but like you're basically forcing them to be affectionate with their friend when it's clear they don't want to. Some of the responses, some of Chris's other reactions to things, like when Asgore hugs you at the end of chapter 1. Point being, that nice file may not be as nice as I think it is. And I've been really conflicted about doing the sword route in chapter 3. My plan at this point had been to basically just skip it and try and beat the knight and Gerson without the Shadow Mantle. And I can't remember what it was, but I saw a video that made an argument that makes me think that maybe skipping that, for all that it harkens back to Snowgrave, and especially having to kill the little versions of Susie and Ralsei, Chris is not very happy about that. And then you cause them some existential horror when you pop out of the screen. Despite all of that, it may actually not be as weird rowdy as it feels. And if I do decide to do it, then I have to amend my notes because you can't get the egg after you get the Shadow Mantle. Fuck it, let's heal again. Did it on your save file because Sham recommended it and you trust Sham. I mean, honestly, yeah, trusting Sham seems to be a good idea. I think when it comes time, I am going to go through it again. We just won't be doing any actual Snowgrave stuff. And that will be much more fun, won't it? If I can remember to, in chapter 3, on the nice file, I will try and remember to use her healing in chapter 3 as much as I can, because that will help reduce the TP cost. And that will mean that it builds up a little bit faster than it is right now. But even the guide on the wiki says healing gets you 11 stars, Root Buster gets you 10, it costs less TP, it's actually a slightly faster / better way to get through this fight. God damn it. I wonder if anybody's made a recipe for a tutorial-style butterscotch cinnamon pie. Because, butterscotch is one of those flavors that I'm really ambivalent about. It really depends the format that it's presented to me in. Those hard butterscotch candies, I hate those. Can't stand that. But if you make something with butterscotch chips, those are really good. And butterscotch ice cream, nothing wrong with that. Even that drink from the book series, which shall not be named, that's pretty good too. Thumbnail for people eating recipes from Deltarune. I did see a video that was people eating recipes from Deltarune, but it was them just sort of interpreting things from the name of them. They made a spin cake, notably, and it was using a particular style of cake that is just, it's not cake, it's like a batter that you wrap around a cylinder and then bake into a spiral cone. And it's I'm not sure that's really what was suggested by the spin cake, but points for originality, I guess. But yeah, I don't know what a butterscotch pie would be like. I have to imagine it'd be a lot like a peanut butter pie, because those two do seem to go pretty closely together. There's recipes for it? Okay, I'll have to go look it up. Yeah, I hope the axe is worth the trouble. The only reason I'm doing this is because I need the Shadow Crystal. And there's actually every chance that I don't want the Shadow Crystals on this file, but we're not going to find out for quite some time. I saw a thumbnail for a video, I didn't watch it, asking what are the Shadow Crystals going to make. I think they're going to make the Pure Crystal. When you talk to Malleus, even all the way back in chapter 1, you'll see he has a recipe for the Thorn Ring and a Pure Crystal, which makes a sword. So I'm guessing it's going to be like Chris's best sword in the game. Maybe best attacking sword, since you have to go through Snowgrave to get the ring. Oh yeah, and speaking of the prophecy, somebody pointed out that, again, Ralsei says the prophecy is immutable and everything in it is going to come to pass, but some of the things that are written in it have already happened and been proven false. There were a couple examples. The only one I can remember is the Queen's Chariot cannot be stopped. You end up stopped in traffic in Chapter 2. The Queen's Chariot was in fact stopped. I really am hoping that this means that all the things about no one gets to choose who they are in this world, your choices don't matter in this game, is actually not true. That it was actually in fact smokescreen, and that we might have some effects of our choices, even if it's just, a different dialogue, which already happens. But the chariot meant the Giga Queen, since Gerson mentioned the chariot fight in chapter 2. Yeah, pointing out that the chariot fight makes sense. It's just that the image with that particular screen is of the limo. And yeah, it was stopped either way, so the point still stands. Then again, Ten was cleaved through the head in the picture of Lord of the Screens, the images aren't exactly right. That is a good point. I mean, he was still cleaved red by a blade, but you know, that's enough of a disparity that it can be brought up as another piece of evidence that maybe the prophecy is not in fact immutable. And of course that's Gerson's whole deal, is sitting around fucking with the prophecy. It's meant to be the head but didn't have it exactly. If the pacifist right, you can say, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that, because I couldn't do it in my original playthrough, and obviously wasn't going to do it in this one. Screw that guy, and screw all of his employees. Violence, violence, violence. Oh, and I also discovered lots of pictures of the Titan, shrunk down to thumbnail size. It looks like Gaster's face, and I hate saying that because Gaster is the take a drink reference in every Deltarune theory. People cannot avoid trying to tie everything to this guy who we don't even know exists in the first place, who we certainly don't know exists in this game. But it's true, and I think it's funny, and I wish I could come up with a way to turn it into a video essay, because I absolutely would, and it would be hilarious. I was thinking a lot about, speaking of Deltarune theories and video ideas, I was thinking a lot about Ram recently. The little plug guy from last chapter, because he's turning into another one that the fandom just really wants him to be, like, super deep and sinister. A lot of people, when they first played Chapter 3, apparently think he's going to end up being a secret boss, which I sort of get where that comes from, but then there's an element of cope when it turns out that he's not, I think. I saw a very cool comic of him messing with one of the Pippinses, or rather one of the Pippinses starts messing with him, and then he makes it regret that decision. He grabs a wear-wire plug, if you remember those from Cyber City. He grabs one of those, plugs it into his face, and he grows several extra torsos and becomes this giant centipede monster. And it's a very cool design, and if he was going to be some sort of nasty secret boss, that would be a great design for him, but he's not. And I think there's, I don't know, I think there's an essay to be had about why he is in fact not special, and that's kind of the point. So that's one that I'm stewing around in my head. Saw a comic recently which had a person labeled fandom saying to Ram something like, I like you a lot, but I'd like you a lot more if you went crazy and tried to kill me. Yeah, that is in fact exactly what the sentiment seems to be. Saw a video earlier today, Kiss Magic's newest one. Turns out Shum does not react if you come to him with extra shadow crystals. Which, it's not that interesting, but it is sort of worth noting. They changed parts of the story. Isn't it interesting? The book was already just an interpretation of something else. And that's the whole reason he's here in the plot. Stories can be retold and changed. He knows what the hell's going on. Absolutely nothing tragic about him, which is surprising. As long as you got the point, the words don't matter, because stories can be rewritten. It's fun to realize that that's actually the same animation as when you, like, unleash light against the Titan. I guess that explains why it works on it. I love that this becomes a thing that, like, they can use just as part of this adventure trying to solve stuff. Chris fucking blushed. Also, that little red eye of hers is really cool. Maybe I'll, yeah, that's, oof. God, she doesn't know. Oh, there we go. Luckily, there's a book there, and as we all know, a stack of 3 books will stop any piano. There's something inside the acorn. What does that mean? I think I saw somebody mention that in a video at some point. Unless they're stacked on a shelf. Exactly. Stack them on the shelf, they are actually easier to destroy. Oh, that's right, yeah. One of the things about this series of prophecies is they're in the wrong order. Is it starts with Ralse, and it says third was the prince. Yeah, and then this is the second girl. The girl with hope crossed on her heart is Noelle. The other girl, at last the girl, it sounds like it's, you know, leading into this, but that's the second hero. God, she's just so sad. She feels so worthless. It's gonna mess with her when she finds out she's not actually the second hero. And then it's like, well, what the hell have I been doing this whole time? Well, girl, you don't need a prophecy to be a hero. You know, thinking that that's Noelle with the heart on the chest there, that could be, wow, I'm thinking several things. Love finds its way. What did LV mean in Undertale? Noelle gets stronger, but also it could point towards her gaining a soul. It could point towards her becoming possessed by us. Level of violence, exactly. Oh, that's it. It is very strange to me that Ralsei destroys that. That is such a violent act for him, even though it's just a statue. Yeah, this scene is a bit rough. And then he fucking starts crying like, oh, poor baby boy. Also, I believe this gives us a chance to be mean to him, which is necessary. It's no longer fun, but it is necessary on this save. I really have to wonder what's so terrible. I'm crying because that goat got's friends. You know, that's actually kind of the fact that when you get an item in the game, it comes off the side in a little bag and falls onto Chris. Notice Ralsei's looking at us. See, even when he's been handed the controller, he can't make any decisions. I want to get them all. Oh, now they all like me. That's so cute. Oh yeah, this also, he's yelling at them and they can hear him through the screen. It does actually set up that there's something weird about this game, but that just seems like sort of the normal goofy shit that Tenna does. God, I've seen so many good theory videos and like analysis videos. Like, it's kind of sad that we don't get to have Toriel as an active participant, but the fact that she becomes this world's greatest treasure is emblematic of her role in the story or something. I forget what it was. It was a very good video though. Separation anxiety up the wazoo, yeah. He's got all kinds of problems, really. Ram quits. So he's actually working for/with Tenna. I don't know why I've been kind of focused on him lately. So many people want Ram to be more than he is, and I honestly don't think that he is. Ram fits the pattern of the other secret bosses, but isn't. Yeah. And people have been trying to find reasons why he actually is the secret boss or something. But no, the nightmare is a pizza box. I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding. They are very cute. I still do not believe that. I do not believe that this was all his master plan to get the two of them back together. Begs the question, what are they in terms of light world objects? Are they literally just a manifestation of the weather channel? Oh yeah, and then Mike quits. Notice that this is a Bibliox, an enemy from Chapter 4. I'll tell you my schedule, listen carefully. On Thursday I go to sell the donuts, so we first found him near the bake sale in Chapter 1. On Friday, he tosses the leftovers in the dumpster. We found him again near the dumpster in Chapter 2. On Saturday, he lets it cool on the windowsill. That's next chapter. And on Sunday, Chapter 5, he harvests the wheat. What does that mean? Nobody can tell. With 11 hours or 11 years, Deltarune will be waiting. I think that's commentary on the development time. Take your time, wash your face, and get dressed. There is not a man here. Oh, and we in fact got dressed. Can we talk for a minute about that scene with him and Spamton? Because I knew that that was a thing. I didn't spoil myself on what exactly they said, but I sort of assumed that was the reason that everybody's been not just shipping them, but shipping them hardcore. So I figured that there was going to be some sort of special / interesting interaction, and not just like he didn't even seem to know who Spamton was, which is very strange to me. Which I suppose could mean that they've only ever interacted over the internet? I don't know. Tenna was used to Big Shot Spamton? Holy shit, he made it a lot easier to dodge. Oh my god. Since that whole stream of me fighting the knight constantly and doing really bad, she got a nerf. They shrunk the hitbox of the sword corridor. I saw Hess Magic did a video about what would happen if you gave everyone not just one Shadow Mantle, but two. And the funniest thing was it's actually kind of hard to test how much damage that first attack actually does. Why drown the world in darkness? That's a very good question. My thought on it is that the knight is like a parasite. It's not a parasite, but it is an entity that requires a host. And it manifests as just sort of the physical transformation and the need to open dark fountains. It's a corrupting force or entity that has taken control of Dessa's body, possibly all of her, and that is using her for its own devices. It's so weird. Why does it smash cut like that? What does it mean? I love that Chris's shirt is exactly the same, just buttoned down. Susie knows about cleaning bloodstains. Also, I never realized that was a thing we could interact with. I wonder who notably isn't there. I mean, Carol's not there. I wonder if that means that the Angel's Heaven, if that line is a good indicator that the Angel's Heaven is just the interface between us and the game. Blank page is an invitation to write. Chapter theme. Time to drink out of Cuptons. That's not weird in the slightest. There's such gremlins. I think the fact that she refused to use Carol's name means that, like, they specifically had a falling out. I still think it's so funny that if you drink it in front of her, Chris throws it on the ground. It's maybe the funniest thing in this whole game. Someone who goes to church and knows the mayor also has something to do with the cops. But if that's the reason why the knight captured Undine, why the hell were they trying to capture Toriel first? What is the school project? Do we even remember? That was assigned on the first chapter day. Ah, he's so supportive. We love a good dad. The library is open. Okay. How are you doing, dumbass? You, sir. Wait, love? What? You expect Nasty Blue to jail them again? Yeah, exactly. That was a very strange conversation with that guy. Also, it's amazing that nobody uses the supply closet that is just there and open for everyone to access. Who would have thought a 2-button rhythm game would be worth playing? He's wearing a cowboy hat because this is making fun of Woody Theory. If you don't know what Woody Theory is, it's really stupid. You don't really like looking at this sort of thing. That's a very interesting callback to Asgore's basement corkboard. What's over here? It's getting darker. Is it perhaps getting yet darker? He's the only one serious about dressing up as an animal. I wonder if we'll ever get to find out what's in that door. Are they into each other? I thought they were just friends. Interesting. Some people think Sans might be a secret Chapter 5 boss. There's probably some people out there who think Sans is the knight. Sans doesn't mean anything in this game. He's here to mess with us, and it's great. More Papyrus Knight from what you've seen, but at least most of that is done in jest. I'm honestly not sure how much of it is really in jest. There's so much of the fan that just wants to be the smartest guy in the room and be the one who can say first, and they figured things out. Theorizing should be fun and stem from analysis. And Mr. Tennant and I are going to get along famously. Oh, that's so cute. What is this salacious music video? Oh dear. What have we done to Metaton? Gotta admit the room's kind of sus, especially the vent reference. They're from such different worlds, and yet it's not even sad necessarily. It's kind of cute. As an act of charity, I will let you be the breeze under my wings. What the hell? We're gonna go with Birdley. You'll have to fight for it. You know Ellen Susie? No, this is worth it for the meme. Shit. May the best suitor epic win. I hate you so much, Birdley. Oh, God, I hate him so much. Important notes in here are that her parents, probably her mom, just did not understand Des, and that's why she has just a whole bunch of random shit. Comic books, paintballs, cracked hockey mask, frayed yarn buttons, your brother's retainer, a violin, a flute, a microphone, all very expensive, very dented. They just kept buying her music stuff because they know she likes music, but those are classical instruments, not a guitar. Yeah, so last time we saw this, I did not know what to do next. Next we want to go to Carol and Rudy's room. So you can see a bit of a corkboard there. He's been trying to piece things together because she left him after he was disgraced, forced out of, quit the police force. And she hasn't believed him any time he's tried to explain what he saw. They're all going to understand. I think predicting Chapter 5 as being Flower King is kind of a foregone conclusion at this point. As Asgore's messed up and he needs some head kicking to get back on track. But also, he needs to be able to say his piece. Sure is beautiful, isn't it? This black shard. Dun dun dun! And you can't quite see it, but right above his shoulder is the handle of another sword. Yeah, see, there's another sword there. And so it's not obvious if he's talking about the sword, or if he actually has a black shard or a shadow crystal Carol's bedroom katana, yeah. Doesn't everybody have a katana in their bedroom? My theory is that he got to the scene of wherever Des disappeared late, just in time to see whatever was happening, the very tail end of it, or after everything had already happened. And all that was left of her, in my mind, there's the cool way, like the dramatic way, is he comes into whatever the scene is, and there's this girl getting sucked up by this dark force, and he reaches out and tries to grab her hand, and all he gets is this black crystal thing that he doesn't know what the hell it is. The less interesting is that that's just all that's left when he finds that spot. Obvious. I think this actually could be Carol. It just isn't the night. I think it's very possible that there's a dark world in her office, and this is her in that world communicating through the phone, and that's like what comes out. Chris Soul is a very weird thing to say to Chris, come to think of it. Yeah, kind of is. I think that Carol is tied up in whatever created Chris as the soul vessel. Oh, fuck. Yeah, we're not getting the whole conversation, so it could be anything. Oh, is this more Chris hand theory? Severed hand. Has a good amount of textual support. It's also got some visual support, too. Remember at the end of chapter 2 where Noel is crucified on a large hand? The imagery is just... Yeah, he didn't clean the basement this year because he's been in the freaking hospital the whole time. I guess if you want proof that we're the angel, here it is. Noelle's maybe a little braver than she thinks she is. It's so weird to think that right now she is holding the soul. I need to see the fanfic about Susie and Noelle raising a severed hand together. The sacredness of this room. Oh, it's there. Yeah, it's funny. Nobody has so far talked about Susie's musical aptitudes, because we see her play the drums, maybe not well, but she does it. She tells us about playing a piano, and now here she plays a guitar. Again, not very well. But these are all things that, like, because Chris is the virtuoso, essentially. If we weren't so goddamn important. I notice one more commonality, red herring thing with Carol is she only communicates in, like, clipped words, like 1 or 2 words at a time, which is kind of similar to what the voice on the phone is doing. That's obviously different, and she's doing that because she's royally pissed off. But, you know, once again, she's not the knight, but she's definitely caught up in all this stuff. She does speak normally when talking to Asgore, yeah. And also here. She knows about us, man. She knows about Chris. She's the reason why Chris has the soul, because that's the only way they could figure out to try and get Des back from the darkness. But yeah, that sound when she enters, like, that is the sound of the vibes just went so bad. That's what it feels like when you're in that situation. That's what it sounds like. I've been watching a lot more theory videos. People keep coming up with neat stuff. Although the one that I decided not to watch is the one whose thesis statement is Markiplier is going to be the final boss of Deltarune. I watched that for about 2 minutes and I'm just like, no, just don't. I feel like this scene is really important because we're sort of seeing the most real version of Chris. Also, what is up with the revving engine noises? Is this where truck theory comes from? They both want to talk about the dark world and they're both afraid of it because it would be weird. That's just... oh, that's really good. I just think it's so funny. Who knew Chris was good with ranged weaponry? Kind of think of the soul being an actual physical object is pretty weird. Yeah, it is pretty weird. Although, I don't know, I guess it has to be physical, because like all the electronic stuff, that could be like an ambient spiritual thing. I never looked at the clothing back here. A shirt of Chris's, something that looks, I don't know, it's like a cool black robe or something. Plaid, she was gay, and camo. The yellow dialogue is interesting. Chris seems normal. You don't know Chris. It's interesting, though. It almost seems like she was dreaming about the Snowgrave route or the start of it. Really? Good at flirting. What makes you say that, Susie? Look at her fucking face. What's she dreaming at? Be the 3 of us. Who's 3? Goes to another school. Oh, no. Oh, no. Noelle's gonna think Susie has a boyfriend at another school. Shit. He's from another school, you haven't heard of it. Seriously, what does that yellow mean? What the fuck? The soul is physical trauma. Everything's been deleted? What? I'm sorry, what the fuck? Chris doesn't want us to know who they're calling. Oh shit, you're right. Oh, that's wild. Hello, Mr. Cringefail. I honestly think that he really is a good-natured guy at heart, and playing up that side of himself sort of helps him cope with the trauma of everything that he's seen, whatever it was. Like, maybe he gets a little bit lost in it. So I was going to say, as this scene progresses, eventually Chris does fall asleep, and I was thinking the reason they fall asleep, like regardless of what you do, is because they were out all night helping Birdley, but that's on the Snowgrave route. I have to wonder what they were doing in between chapters on a pacifist route. Like, was it just... I don't even know. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to have a reason. That's perfectly fine. Geos. It is funny how this starts off with some very easy puzzles, and it's kind of like a way to show that you've done this before, you know what's going on. The puzzles are just kind of an afterthought. So I've been thinking more about the sword route. The reason I didn't want to do it is because it, references Snowgrave, so it doesn't seem like a thing to do on the pacifist route, but there is a slight difference in some of the Nightmare's dialogue, depending on whether you're on the Snowgrave route or a pacifist route. So there is some difference. But also, like, the main thing that I wanted to avoid was the third round, when you have to destroy the 8-bit Susie and Ralsei to level up. And Chris does, like, the flinch away because they can't stand watching their friends get killed like that. And the moment that I've been focused on is that moment when you are very clearly hurting Chris. And then later on, you freak them out by leaving the screen, but that's whatever. I was like, I didn't want to do that. I feel like it's foreshadowing. I've said before that I think the last piece of the prophecy is someone dying, probably Ralsei, but more so than just a death. It's a betrayal. And that scene in the sword route could be foreshadowing that Chris is going to betray their friends, guided by us, essentially. But the other thing it makes me think of is that if anyone's heard of Slash Theory says that when you beat the knight and you end the fight with everybody standing, more or less, then there's 2 slashes that come and take out Susie and Ralsei, and Chris either falls over or gets knighted by the knight. If you watch those slashes, they're coming from a direction that suggests that Chris is the one doing it. And this is one of the more compelling theories that I've ever seen. Just thinking about it, the slashes, like the round part, goes that way. With the party over here, it's going towards the enemy. When the knight slashes at you, like doing the multiple slash thing, their slashes point towards the party. So it's possible that that's what was actually foreshadowed. Do you think that's Tenna's voice? Or is that like Mike's voice? I hear a lot of people doing Tenna impressions, and he doesn't sound like that when they do it. Step on me, push me, it's all the time with this guy. Your headcanon is that Sword Magician was Dessa's favorite character, and Azrael switched to it after she went missing. That's a really good theory. I like that. I haven't seen anybody theorizing about smashing fighters around for stuff. Has anybody noticed that there's actually 4 controller ports in this system that we're playing on? And why is Ralsei's connector, lit up? Does that mean the green controller is, clear plastic? Because that was a thing in, the N64 era. Plastic theory. I still say that RAM is nothing special, and that's the point. Although at this point, it's taken me so long not actually doing the video that I wanted to do that I don't really remember what my argument was. I'm trying to think of some other, theory things that I've been wanting to do but aren't worth making a whole video for, I just can't get over the fact that even in, the Snowgrave route, after you do all that shit at Noelle's house, and Chris kicks the crap out of you in the garbage can, they still put the soul back in them. Their need for what the soul provides is so much greater than any harm that might befall Noelle. And that's just a powerful thing to think about. You think about what actually does the soul provide. It's the ability to seal fountains. It's the light that holds back the pressure that the night can throw at us, and the unleashed light against Jackenstein and Titan. These are all things that Chris cannot do themselves. I do like the suggestion that these things happen because Ralsei needs to talk with Chris without us seeing it. Because he does know about us. He at least knows something. Yeah, Ralsei knowing the prophecy, he knows about the cage ahead of time, so he shows several different times he knows about us, and I think he's put it together after a while. His instinct is to ask us which way to go. It reminds me of the face shrine in Link's Awakening, which was fucking terrifying to fight. Another weird thing about the Dark World is Fungang's side of the green room is a side based on Asriel's half of the room instead of Chris's. Really? That's interesting. Huh. The theory that Chris is going to lose a hand at some point is a very believable one, let's say. I wonder if there's any link between that manhole from the Z-Rank changing room and the one in Cyber City on the Snowgrave route. I don't know if there's really a comparison to be made other than the fact that there's just 2 ports of the game so far where you come out of a manhole in like a back route. Saw a video about water in Deltarune suggested the sewer water represented something like things that should not be done. Kind of makes sense. Don't drink the duty water. It's TV time, threatening. Has anyone noticed that Ralsei is like actually moving around inside his ball? I hadn't noticed that before. I've always just noticed Susie trying to bust out of hers. Also, no one has talked about how TV World is a company town, because you have to buy things with points, and that's basically company script. 2 points. There's no corner of my heart I wouldn't turn over for 2 points. Ralsei, despite being an anthropomorphic goat, is somehow a furry. I just realized this scene is very reminiscent of Mary Poppins, because there's that scene where all the chimney sweeps shake the kids' hands and they all doff their hats. I wonder why she would be in danger if she was awake. I watched this again recently, and this goes on for so long. It's like so overblown. It goes from funny to not funny and back to funny again. Especially because he does that. It's distinctly going on for too long to be funny by itself, but the fact that it's going on too long to be funny is actually really funny. Also, the idea of Tenna being at home in an apron on a chair, very upset about mice. And yeah, I think he's distinctly trying to ignore the fact that Spamton is actually there. So something I thought of, I don't think there's any meaning to this, but for the Whoa Mamma Mia part, that rapid-fire auto-text advancement is the same thing, mechanic, I guess you could say, used in the Snowgrave route when Noelle's trying to get out of getting the Thorn Ring again. Like I said, I don't think there's any meaning to that. I think it's also used, but not as rapidly, for the times when Susie overrides your choices. Oh! Starwalker. Oh, one of these days we'll find out what the hell is up with that guy. What does it say that playing video games in the video game is what gets you all the secret things? If he doesn't remember who left the ticket, then I assume the man gave it to him. Isn't it interesting, too, that Toriel is on some of those? She's, like, doing a cooking show? When the hell did that happen? What is the importance of eggs, indeed? Because there's the mysterious eggs that the Forgotten Man gives you, and there's the Peepus, and you can't get this from an egg. The Spamton Sweet States, Noel talks about getting a strange egg and cat petters, too. Yes, that's true. If not for fun, why'd you do it? Oh. Did anybody know about this? What the hell? Literally, did anybody know about that? Seen people talk about it? Okay, I'm not usually going to be the person who discovers things. Certainly not this far after something has been released. It's only been 2 months. Well, 3. And like I said, I think that's foreshadowing Chris's role as a betrayer. Possibly not necessarily Chris, maybe just the fact that a betrayal will happen. And of course, it's not something Chris really wants to think about, and I don't blame them. Theorize to presage future fights. A yellow monster flinging spears at you in a room with 7 flowers. We know what that means. Although I don't know what those guys are supposed to be. Like, a lot of the monsters have analogs in people that you know. The yellow lizards are Alphys. Don't know about the blue ones. Like, that's Caddy. You kill the fish, the lizards die. Makes you think this game is based off the game that was made on Asriel's computer. You know, that's not a bad thought. This also means something. Like Ram says, this game is supposed to be true freedom, but it's very linear. There's nothing more free than making the game yourself. But you know, that's not a bad point. I think that black monster that Chris kills automatically is supposed to be representative of the soul. He thought it was the night. Could also be. Was there in fact nobody there, or was it a strange noise? Because the tutorial variable will change it from a black deer into what it is in the game. Oh, that's true. Yeah, the variable names and the sprite names are all very, very weird things. We all mean that Asgore ran over Des when in fact it was tutorial all along. Also, where did Ram go? Yeah, everything about Ram is weird. I still say it doesn't mean anything. Tough bosses. Oh, you've never seen this fight before? This is the guy who has the Shadow Mantle. I would almost say he is the Shadow Mantle. Like, I can't imagine what else it looks like other than him. Like, I think it's very possible that the voice that we talk to is actually not this guy. That this is an entity possessing the Shadow Mantle, because he disappears at this point. So he went up here, flew into the treasure chest, and the entity is now gone. And now we do crazy shit. Bye, lol. That's a direct reference to the Ralsei smoking weed meme. I can't remember if that was in there last time. It is interesting that Rudy hung around even after Noelle stopped going. That's from Mario RPG. I think that no one's gonna get thrown away line also speaks to my thought that the end of the prophecy is a death and possibly a betrayal. God, nothing will ever beat the intense oh shit moment. The very first time we saw this and we're like, oh my god, it's the night. Oh my god, we have to fight them. Oh my god, these fucking attacks. And just being like completely hopeless. Every now and then the soul will like, it gets like teeth. I don't know that I've heard a whole lot of hash made about that before. Yeah, like every now and then, I think it's just in this fight, right before it gets hit, or I think sometimes when Chris would take a fatal hit, the soul will like grit its teeth like it suddenly has a mouth, kind of shake a little bit, and hold on with one hit point. I'm not sure what to make of that, honestly. Oh, I already used the spin cake? Damn. We will just let them suffer then. At this point, it feels a little silly to do any theorizing. I did watch a theory video a couple of days ago, but that's the first one in quite a while. Feels like everything that can be extracted from these chapters more or less has. But also, I was just now wondering if anyone's made anything of the fact that a lot of the Knight's attacks seem to have to do with vision and head problems, trauma. I wonder if that has anything to do with what happened to Des after she disappeared. Don't know if there's a whole lot you can make of it. Lock the fuck in! The enemy suddenly let down its guard. Let's have Chris finish her off. Oh, yes! That took an hour. I'm so glad we never have to do this again. I think the Knight is opening the door for Chris there, but they know that they can't face it alone. They know that they need Susie, if not also Ralsei, in order to ultimately defeat the Knight and save Des. That is my guess. For some reason during the night fight I couldn't help but think about hand theory. When Susie says, so long as Chris has a hand to pull me up, that definitely seems like foreshadowing. I wonder how important Mike is going to end up not being. I'm sure there are people out there who are like, the real Mike is still out there somewhere. But yeah, no, I don't think there is a real Mike. And I still don't understand what the hell this is. It's just the hallway gets darker and darker, and eventually it runs out. And then you walk all the way back. And it's like, what the hell, man? Nothing changed. I was watching a bunch of theory videos this morning. One pointed out how a bunch of characters are moving towards the state that they were in Undertale. Like, Caddy and Bratty sort of starting to get along a bit. Mettaton now has a chance to come out of their shell. And Napstablook, I could very much see quitting the police force. Someone suggested the dog bandits become police officers instead. A whole bunch of stuff like that. It was very interesting. And, you know, like all theory videos, there's only ever so much that's really feasible. Maybe Deltarune is a prequel. I've always believed that Deltarune takes place before Undertale. I don't believe that they take place in the same universe. I do think it is like an alternate version of Undertale. Sans did say there's multiple timelines, yeah. And this Sans doesn't know as much about that kind of thing as he does in Undertale. That's one of the big theory keystones, is that he's sort of learning to be Sans. Also, someone pointed out that the reason Sans' name up there starts with an apostrophe is because that's actually Grillby's. This place used to be Grillby's, and now he's turned it into a supermarket. I once saw someone joke that Deltarune is Toby Fox's Undertale AU. I love that so much. I think Susie's most charming quality is that she is always down to eat literally anything. Sorry, but it's not much. You can tell she's a rich kid. Except the French fry on the ground, that's true. But as she said, it's kind of like old and mushy. Definitely not something you should eat. Whereas flowers are nice and fresh. I'm sure they have a crisp crunch. A hot, crisp crust, if you will. Also, this line lives in my head rent-free. I will just be walking around my house and suddenly Noelle will go, excuse me? There is an artist out there on Tumblr who is absolutely obsessed with shipping Chris and Birdley, and they're very good at it too, which is to say, I'm not into the ship, but all their stuff is really good. It's very convincing. Rise from your grave. There we go. The soul is pretty strong for just being a JPEG of a heart. Snowdin in Undertale is kind of a Christmas-themed town, and Politics Bear very specifically mentions that they don't have a mayor. So, like, there are actually links to the Holiday Family in Undertale. It's not just the references in the Undertale alarm clock app or whatever the hell people keep referencing. I found a very good channel today. Shout out to Kevindex, and he's coming at Deltarune for now, but video games in general from the perspective of someone who is training to be a therapist. I think the choppiness of this part of the conversation is partially because we're up there listening to a phone on speaker, not necessarily the best audio quality, but also I think whoever's in there or whoever's talking is in a dark world, and we know that the signal from a dark world is not super good. Of course, we also know that we can't call anybody in dark worlds. Well, maybe they can. Who knows? Chris Dark World, no soul can't. You need the soul in order to enter dark worlds. Or at least someone does. You poor kid. You know, whenever a number Chris calls in the dark world doesn't work. Yeah. But just because they can't call out doesn't mean somebody can't call them. This is why this chapter feels so big. Is because there's all this light world prologue that you at least have to do some of. I saw a video about the yellow text. I wish I could remember what the conclusion it came to was. It's actually a very long video, as I recall. It had like a big chart of various places that colored text shows up, and then like over here in the corner was Starwalker, because like all of his shit is yellow, because he's yellow. I think in this section it's all references to stuff that happened in the dark world, I'm not sure. Yeah, it also talked a bit about red text, because it's not just what Carol's going to do at the end of this scene. There's some other red text in a couple other places. Also, people are very good at coming up with Easter eggs nobody's seen that look very real, so don't believe everything that you read. You'll get a parking violation and a maggot on your sleeve. Aw, Noelle was blushing, that's cute. But yeah, you also notice that every time she says something that's yellow, Chris takes notice. Yeah, Toby wants us to suspect that Carol's the knight and not Des. That was my immediate thought the first time I saw that part. Man, Susie and her natural iconoclasm getting Noelle to come out of her shell, I really have to wonder what the ramifications of this are going to be like, because obviously Carol is not happy with this. She treats Des's shit as sacrosanct because she hasn't given up on the idea that she might come back. But like, what's going to happen to Noelle is my question. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not allowed to go to the festival or something. Something, Carol has the ability to fast talk through other people's dialogue. Here's a fun theory. The way her voice sounds, I could see her voice being very raspy. Maybe she's a smoker, and that's why Rudy has all the lung problems, is from the secondhand smoke from being around her the whole time. I say this because my father has emphysema and never smoked a day in his life, but both of his parents smoked. And that shit will, fuck people up. Not just the ones doing it. Toby Fox really does weird script choices. Remember that part of Chapter 3 where the wedding Lenino, El Nino, and Rules card happens? There's even that cutscene with Lancer coming in throwing flowers to explode along the way, and then Rules dressed as the bride. I'm very happy to have you in my chat right now. Tenna cries with emotion when Ralsei has that iconic line where he says, "And I now pronounce you, married." I love it. I have to wonder if you do that if Chris doesn't get completely knocked out. Probably not. Probably happens. Dialogue in chapter 4 is pretty revealing. If you listen behind the door when Carol's scolding Noelle, there's a 1% chance of secret dialogue will be triggered where she says in Santa accent, "But Mom, I'm homosexual." Yeah, Carol would be very upset if she didn't put it that way. Ralsei, you're such a dick in this chapter. But it makes perfect sense because he's preoccupied with trying to keep us from the truth. I never realized it, but that first image is actually Castletown with wings, which I don't know what to make of that. It's really hard to trigger the alternate acid lake cutscene in chapter 2 where you get a moment alone with Birdley instead of Ralsei. It's worth it because the item Birdley Tea restores 100% of Chris's HP afterward. Very useful in the fight against the Roaring Knight. Yeah, that would be. No way to do it in the weird route because Birdley is in some kind of snow grave. Yep. Not just accurate, but specific. Like, why is that important? Pretty weird. It feels like the only reason it's there is to tell us the player the prophecy is hyper-specific even when it's shown to be pretty vague later. Yeah, it is weird. It's also weird that not just what the prophecy says, but how it says it is potentially full of meaning. I love how the path is completely different from the way we got over there. It's also a lot less scary now that we know what that actually is. I wonder if there's any significance to the fact that that one sounds like a bell and the other one sounds like a violin. I do remember someone pointed out you can see symbols in the background here, like there's a knight, there's a queen, and the one below me right there. There's a pawn, and there's a flower. I do believe the theory was that this all lays out various chapters and or bosses thereof. There's a sword there. God damn it. Fucking get out of my way. Can I just say that this one bothers me ever so slightly? I don't think there's actually anything wrong going on here, but just the whole idea that this is the humiliating one. Whatever you end up being, I'm sure it'll be tremendous. God, what a thing to hear someone say. And the dragon is the villain in Dragon Blazers. I'm not actually certain what that means. Where was Ralsei? That's a very good question. What were he and Chris doing? Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he took a moment to go, look for that bit of the prophecy he doesn't want us to see. See him run away just as the screen gets really dark. Oh. Well, that's probably something like what he was doing then. Alright, Sanctuary 2. Sanctuary harder. Honestly, it's kind of terrifying that it's that easy, that she got it on her first try. It's always interesting that there's one dead end at the start of every area. River Person brings up the inside of an acorn and Undertale, but they're also intentionally mysterious, so it's hard to say what they mean by it. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of talk about the girl and love coming to the girl, and if the girl's Noelle, love coming to her could mean her getting a soul, which might be what we're doing to her in the Snowgrave route. Maybe the acorn bit is foreshadowing something in chapter 5. It could be. It could be even more erudite than that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more to it than just a little bit of foreshadowing. Girl with hope crossed on her heart. And people are arguing back and forth about who this is. Because, there are some very obvious things missing for it being Noelle, notably her antlers. But also, Susie's hair is not that long. And she doesn't use a sword. One of the better arguments for Susie not being the second hero is that it makes a section where she talks about not being picked for anything all the more tragic. Yes. And also, narratively speaking, in this chapter we realize that she's here to break the prophecy. Literally, she does this several times. And therefore, it doesn't make sense for her to conform to it. You don't have to be picked by fate to be a hero. Just look at Bo from Princess of Power. And yeah, that's the other thing, is that she's here of her own accord. She's doing things an iconoclast would do. Could Des be the second hero? Well, there's something to be said for that because, if Des is the knight, she has a bat, which is a sword. But again, the image is missing the antlers. And I would say that we don't know how exact those images are, if we should be reading every little detail that's missing as something important. And it doesn't get cut right down his face. Exactly. And of course, we know that the Queen's chariot was in fact stopped. We had to help it out. That was part of chapter 2. So the prophecy is not 100% correct the way that Ralsei thinks it is. Even if some very large things have come to light so far. Large things and small things like Toothpaste Boy. This in Roots references children getting lost in the forest. It also references the tale that should not be followed, which I'm not sure is a prophecy panel I've actually seen in gameplay. Shows up unscrambled and Spamton Sweepstakes. Yeah, I think that's right. It does show up unscrambled somewhere. Worth noting, this is the 7th flying ace. The line began to err as if the pencil had lost its way, so the memory is kind of sliding off their mind. At least that's how I interpret it. A lot of people have interpreted this scene to mean that Chris has gone through some trauma and dealt with it through art therapy, which we saw them doing just a little bit right there. Also in the egg hospital area, there's supposed to be a second person to the right. I missed him the first time. If you don't talk to him before you start doing the picture, he disappears. And he just says, "Hi, this is Art Club, where we draw pictures and don't kill each other," or something like that. And it's believed that this is actually So Sorry, if you know who that is from Undertale. I like that theory myself because it's funny on several levels. Hello, Gold Chevron. I love this running sprite for Chris. Why do we never see that? I think they do that as you're going to fight the knight. I don't know. I feel like maybe we saw that before. The one time that Ralsei destroys something. The section is genuinely well done and plays into the themes established up to this point. Yes, absolutely. Deltarune team, Toby Fox, they all know what they're doing. Whenever Toby plays into horror, it sticks with you. Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen the Undertale 10th anniversary stream? I watched a compilation video the other night of all the new stuff that was shown in it, which was mostly either gags or Deltarune connections. Like Noelle was in there, just sort of in the background. There's a character that we think might be Birdley's mom. There's a character who looks like Susie. I don't think there's a whole lot of meaning to most of it. I wonder if actually, this kind of desperation, I wonder if actually he's prophesied to betray the others. Don't you think? If it was just keeping them from learning about his own bad fate, like, yeah, although that does fit into some other things that I said about his character. Maybe it doesn't make sense, given Susie's reaction to the final panel. I think it's gotta be a betrayal, just because learning that one of them has to die would be unpleasant. But I kind of feel like a betrayal leading to the death is, I don't know, it just sort of better fits the gravitas that we ascribe to the prophecy at this point. For us, there is a Judas in this situation. What have we seen so far that confirms it or denies it? Well, absolutely nothing. Nothing really confirms or denies what the final panel of the prophecy is, just that it's something Ralsei doesn't want us to see. And I think it involves him dying because of his generally sort of nihilistic attitude towards his own existence. I feel like that doesn't come about naturally without foreknowledge of your own end, like that would cheapen your life in your own eyes. The idea that Ralsei might betray the others just came to me because you really get the sense of just how desperate he is when he says, you know, I'll do all the rooms, I'll do all the work. You don't get to that point without intense desperation about something. I think Ralsei dying is the most likely thing, and then the betrayal is just sort of flavor that I'm putting on top of that because I'm an edgy motherfucker. What if the knight is Des and Des is the betrayer or Asriel? I don't think Des would be it, just because her being the knight is enough. Asriel fitting into the prophecy somehow towards the end of it, I think there's actually a really good chance of, just because he hasn't shown up in the story so far. Could Chris be the betrayer or the soul? I think that's a good possibility. It is widely believed that we are the angel, which if you read into it and go through a lot of the various theories, it makes a lot of sense. It actually holds up as a theory. And what they're seeing is basically a reflection of our face, which is why it looks so weird because nobody in their world looks like that. You know, if the claim claws were too small for him, how does he climb? He's not made to be a fighter. He's not made to be getting wailed on, but he's just as strong as the rest of us. I think someone pointed out that that whole sequence, despite the fact that we're who's controlling Chris, and a lot of our interactions with Susie and Ralsei are because of what we're doing and not what Chris is doing, they are still all friends. Now for what is easily the coolest fight in this game. I think that's so neat. I did see a theory recently about how that looks like a man's face. I don't remember what came of it. But also, I'm not the only person who noticed that the Titan kind of looks like Gaster. It's as far as I will actually go with Gaster theories. It's just, if you stand back and squint, it looks like a skeletal face. I mostly noticed it from editing videos. Ralsei not knowing something is kind of frightening, honestly. I think that's the other reason why I think it's a betrayal, just because trying to finish the rhyme, although I wouldn't be surprised if the last line doesn't rhyme. I believe this song is known as The Place Where It Rained. It echoes the song from Undertale called It's Raining Somewhere Else. No onions on this chapter either. Although he did appear at the anniversary stream. Maybe that's where he went. Honestly, I think this scene is fantastic because it's not Toby Fox trolling us like a lot of the other chapter end or chapter beginning sequences. It's driving home the fact that what happens in the dark world is only affecting us. Nobody else knows about it. She's trying, but she's also very irresponsible. Cupboard seems to be missing things? Who gives a damn about crime? Wow, she swore! Just the absurdity of that scene matched against everything you've just been through is perfect. Oh yeah, Smallboo Animation actually did the Titan hand. That's so cool. Smallboo created Batman Piderman, which is a hilarious and absurd web series. If you've never seen that, I highly recommend it. My Deltarune. Who's saying this? I don't even think it makes sense for Gaster to be saying that. Toby continued. This is going to be fucking awesome if it works. And you probably can't see my mouse cursor, can you? Down in the bottom right-hand corner, has anyone ever noticed these triangles? There's 4 columns of 3 of them. They look like black shards, which is interesting because it means if that corresponds to my files, my save files, that means I missed something in chapter 1 with the genocide file, but got it in the rest of them. And I wonder what that is. I wonder what that means. I don't think I've seen anyone talk about it before. Why is my controller not working? I saw a video recently, someone was trying to categorize what all the darkeners were, and they were like, shadow guys. I have no idea what they are. They're the little figures in the windows. You can see them right there, and after chapter 3, they're gone. Also, apparently, Chris plugs the TV in between chapters 1 and 2, which is very interesting. Notice they turn into balls that look exactly like what the Roaring Knight does? What does that mean? I have a theory that's just been brewing in my head since I got home today. I was thinking about and answering the question of why does Chris need the soul even when it's fucking them over constantly? Most people assume it's because that's what gets them into the dark worlds. I think it's actually what gets you out of a dark world. Because, like, Susie got into one, Des theoretically got into one. Susie can get out because she's with Chris, but Des can't. Des is stuck. And then that got me thinking, maybe the other big question of, like, why did the Knight try and kidnap Toriel? There doesn't seem to be a particular reason for that. And I was thinking, oh, maybe it was to have a soul to be able to get out of the dark world with. But then immediately I thought, wait a minute, what's the connection between Toriel and Undyne? Why would Undyne be a good replacement for Toriel? Because it sort of makes sense in a, gonna grab Toriel, but the Fun Gang is still, at least Susie is still putting up resistance, and then suddenly Undyne shows up and it's like, oh well, might as well go for this one because no one's trying to defend her, just path of least resistance. But the connection between them is Asgore. I think the Knight is actually trying to essentially blackmail Asgore, like holding someone that he cares about hostage in the shelter so that he'll be pliable to whatever it's got in mind. Anyway, that's my little theory today. They're so, like, self-deprecating. Sham has just a very intriguing personality. Okay, but when we come back here, Susie's door is first, because her room's on the left side. What? That's really odd. Yeah, because this room even goes off to the left. Yeah, so he actually switches the places of the rooms. That's kind of wild. Her reaction here is why I think she has a sibling, probably a younger sibling, possibly an older sibling, who she's always had to share a room with. I wonder if Chris suggests the library because they know that there's a dark world there. So there's 16 cars there, visible. There are at least 16 cars in Hometown. The fun part is, you assume they're talking about Queen, because Queen shows up here. They were very likely talking about Noelle, though. Already Susie is showing that she can care about other people. Like 4 of these all ages appropriate glasses of pure battery acid. Perhaps a hint towards the juice graver out in chapter 4. You want to see cheese ever again? And yet you're the one who says, "Excuse me." That's a lot of cheese. Smells like frozen chicken. Not yet, it doesn't. See, look. My dog must have wandered in the road again. The chariot has been stopped. Not forever, but The first time going through this chapter, this was such a bizarre encounter because devoid of context, he does not make any sense in the slightest. Doesn't take a whole lot of threatening her because she is used to obeying a mother figure. And last but not least, Azrael's room. You opened the door with your eyes closed, you saw nothing. There's something about Azrael that Chris does not want us to know. Dark fountain creates a different world. Its darkness reflect the will of its fountain. But though those darkness can exist in their own worlds, they might not belong if they go to another one. So why does Ralsei belong? The grand fountain is made of pure darkness. It stays flowing, any darkner can live there. Also, like, who made that? Yeah, that he's from the dark world with the grand fountain, which does make sense. That sort of aligns him with all the dark worlds or something. Rules can exist anywhere because he's literally rules. That might actually have something to do with it. It's weird because we see him in this chapter and he does start turning to stone, but in chapter 3 he doesn't. It's shit like this that makes people ship these two, but actually you shouldn't do that. He's learning to friend. Yeah, friendship is magic, Ralsei. Didn't you know that? Fuck. I think that if Susie could actually figure out what the hell Noelle wants from her, she would probably react to her a little bit differently. Pointing hearts come out. Eat moss. Pointing hearts come out. That's how Chris flirts as an action. It's funny that she won't admit to having a tail. Also, something tail leading to death or something. Part of the prophecy. There are a lot of things that have been assumed to be that. This is one of the few direct references to tails that we get. I think Queen was a wine mom before wine mom was a thing. Just what she's always wanted to say to her mom. But yeah, I don't think Ralsei knew that's how Titans are created. It's the roaring, it's all this bad stuff, but it's very non-specific. And like, honestly, to get back to that thing I was talking about at the start of this stream, you need the soul to get out, because that's how you seal the fountain. That's how everybody's able to get out. It's not just proximity. Chris seals the fountain and everybody can wake up in the light world again. Someone pointed out that all of Striped Bird's dialogue is remixed from the first thing he says in chapter 1, which is, like, I love reading, especially the books upstairs. And to think we thought it was just going to be this kind of template for each individual chapter. If there's a hammer buried there, what does that mean for the thingy? His hat apparently grows by 1 pixel per chapter. I wonder if her suspicion of Susie, like Susie's intentions towards Noelle, are actually in line with the prophecy somehow. For some reason I've always parsed that animation as them slapping themselves across the face, but I don't think that's what it is. Couches used to be used as a bed, because that's where Asgore spent a lot of time. She's at least lived here long enough to see one festival beforehand. So she calls the police. Leave the door open so Undyne can get inside. Also, slashing the tires means that Toriel can't offer to drive Susie home, so she has to sleep over. God, I still remember the first time I saw this scene. Them sneaking out the window and doing all this stuff seemed like that was the zinger for the end of the chapter. But no, then they do it again. What the fuck?